I'm going to share the biggest surprises and confusion as I experience these particular aspects of British culture for the first time. And thankfully, I had really patient friends around to explain these things to me. And they must have done a good job because 4 years later, I moved here when Johnny and Kelly were on The Big Breakfast. I'll also share how I think things have changed since then because now it's been a couple decades. The first one is the dreaded tea round. So when I first started coming to the UK, I was mostly there for work. The reason I call it the dreaded tea round is because it was really difficult for me. First of all, getting over the shyness of like walking up to people who were obviously concentrating on their work, and then remembering what they wanted, and then the pressure of like actually making what they wanted correctly or making it well. On one of my very first trips over, I helped a friend of a friend's burger van on the side of a road, and a random lorry driver told me I did not make good tea. So that rejection has stuck with me ever since. Nowadays, I'm not even sure tea rounds are a thing anymore, at least not for the places I've worked. So since those early days when I was working in smaller cities and smaller companies, and then I moved into London and larger companies, as an autistic person, that explains all the reasons why I dreaded the tea round, but either way, I'm glad not to do it again. The next one is cordial and squash. This one's gotten me twice. The words, when they're used in a sentence, had no meaning to me. I was like pretending to figure it out, but then I was like, no, I'm definitely not getting this. And then the second time was when I bought some at the grocery store and didn't read the bottle. I don't know. It said summer fruits. I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. This is a cute drink. Let's try it. I drank it straight and I nearly spewed all over a white duvet comforter and a nice, not unlike this one. Thankfully, I actually figured that one out on my own. I saw the instructions on the back. So the next one is this British politeness, which comes across as lack of directness. So I've been caught out a couple times now with people saying things like, oh, we should totally get together and have dinner sometime, or we should grab a drink after work. And a couple of times I actually took that at face value and followed up, and I was kind of met with like a almost horror. So I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And it was hard to make friends at first. But anyway, Brits also have this really wonderful art of saying no when they think something's a terrible idea. And that probably deserves its own video. But for now, I think I've learned to recognize when they're just being polite as opposed to being genuine. Then we have Eurovision and all of the insanity that goes along with Eurovision. So the first time somebody explained it to me, it sounded kind of cool. I was interested. It's like, okay, so all these countries get together and do a show and everyone's competing against each other. Okay, that sounds cool. And then they explained there was this voting aspect. I understand that the countries that are friendly with each other vote for each other. The quality of the song and the talent of the band is somewhat secondary. I'm like, what? So it's basically a popularity contest. And it's not just that it's a televised event that a lot of people tune into, but a lot of people actually have parties that go with it as well. So very early on, I got invited to my first Eurovision party, and I thought, well, sure, this sounds like fun. Most of us were in our 20s. The Eurovision party was a huge amount of fun. Not gonna lie, it was great. The hangover, though, the next day was probably the worst of my life. I actually haven't been to a Eurovision party since. Just the way it's worked out, I've been moving around a lot. I think that if there was another Eurovision party in the future, I wouldn't say no. It just hasn't worked out. When I first heard village fete used in a sentence, I had no idea what anyone was talking about. And it was described eventually as a party for the town on the open space. And it's not just the word fete, because it's not spelled as it sounds. It looks like the French word to me. You've got the coconut shy, the tombola. I can picture these things now, but I don't think I could describe them if anyone asks. And often you get Morris dancers. And again, that was like a really hard thing that people had to like, I really do feel sorry for the Brits that hung out with me at the very start, because all of these explanations, but Morris dancers, they're like, wearing jingle bells and they're waving white handkerchiefs. But nowadays, I get it. It's not so surprising to me anymore. I even lived on a road that had a green man procession, and there were Morris dancers at that. So it's kind of fun to see. Also, where I grew up, we had square dancing, which is probably equally strange to anyone who's not familiar with that. The next one is Royal Mail, specifically the first class stamp that can get a letter to its destination the very next day. This just goes to show just how tiny geographically England is. Nowadays, I don't send mail. There's just not a huge need for that, and I'm just terrible at sending actual greeting cards anyway. An equivalent benefit in modern times is something like next day delivery, where you can order a lot of things and they can arrive next day. And it's not the same so much in other countries that have larger geographies. Small is an advantage. When I opened my first UK bank account in 1999, even then I was surprised at how advanced it was compared to the US. I remember that they had something called direct debit. And that at the time I feel like was not widely used in the US. But here it was kind of expected, and I did it for all of my bills, which was great because my ADHD brain would forget to pay bills otherwise. And then the other thing that was cool was if you went out to dinner with a friend and they paid and you said, I'll pay you back, but you didn't have any cash, they would just say, oh, you can just send it to me directly. What? And two things. One, in the US, we would never give our account number to somebody. For some reason, that was a security violation, or it felt like a security violation. But the other thing was, once you sent someone the money, and I could do it on the web. It was clunky, and it usually got there within a few hours. But yeah, it got there within a few hours. I mean, that's incredible. I remember back in the day, HSBC had this little plastic device that would randomly display a PIN code, and you would use that to log in. Nowadays, it's much better with the two-factor authentication. You can just do on your phone. It saves a lot of time, and I would misplace that stupid thing. And the US banking has always been behind. We were writing checks for rent for the longest time, and contactless is only just now, maybe in the last 5 years, becoming available. Whereas, contactless, we've had that in Britain, gosh, I don't know, 10 plus years. It's also wild that instead of having to log into my web browser just to do banking, I can do everything on my phone pretty much now. So yeah, it's a lot handier. The next surprising one was hot and cold taps that are separate. And the reasons why were horrifying. Nowadays, I think mixer taps are pretty common, unless it's like a really traditional style bathroom, which is fine. But yeah, mixer taps, my preferred. Okay, Brits, don't come for me for this one, but myself and other fellow Americans have noticed that a lot of times showers do not keep the water inside. If it's spraying, it ends up on the floor. We don't know what that's about. The only time that doesn't happen is if it's a fully enclosed shower with doors that close all the way, but sometimes that doesn't even happen. There's these weird half shower panels that I've seen, and it doesn't, the floor still gets wet. Nowadays, yeah, it's still a problem in a lot of places, but feel free to disagree with me in the comments. You all disagreed with me on the air conditioning one, so why not? Okay, last one is number 10. Other Americans have definitely noticed this over the years, but it's the lack of screens on a window. Because in the UK, we need to open our windows. In the summer, we don't have AC, remember? So we need to have the ventilation, but we have all these flying insects coming in. And even in the winter, we need to open windows because it's just good to get fresh air. I know most modern houses probably do have modern, adequate ventilation, but I've lived in a 1930s house that, no, you have to open the windows. Otherwise you get this black mildew forming in the corners, which isn't very nice. So yeah, screens on windows would make a lot of difference to not just having so many insects flying around the house. Nowadays, it's obviously still a problem. I would say there are fewer bees though, which is really sad. So maybe let's consider laying off the insecticide and planting plants that attract bees. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please give this a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I've enjoyed making these kinds of videos. It's obviously a huge part of my life coming to live in the UK. Living in England, sorry, I get people commenting that England and UK are not interchangeable. I know that. I have been to Wales, I've been to Northern Ireland, I've been to Scotland, all of them multiple times. If people enjoyed this video, I'll keep making this kind of content. If you didn't catch my last video about reasons why I moved to the UK, I'll pop it up here. If you have any other questions or things you want me to talk about, I'd be happy to make more videos as well. Thanks for watching.